listening to the Nerdy Reads podcast, a hipster goblin media production.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Nerdy Reads podcast. As you guys know, we have been covering Dungeon Crawler Carl, and we covered all of book 1, and now we are on the part 2 of book 2, Carl's DoomsDay scenario, and today we're covering chapters 10 through 19. So we ended on 19. We haven't read 20 yet. And so we're going to go ahead and get this thing rolling. If you wanted a author discussion or anything like that, you have to go back a little bit further to the book 1. But most of you guys who are listening to this, you guys already know a little bit about Dungeon Crawler Carl and Matt. And so we're going to get this thing rolling. Robert, where are we at?
Well, previously we had our intro to the third floor. Carl and Donut picked the races and classes. Carl, he's a primal, compensated anarchist, and Donut is a cat, because why would she change, and a former child actor. Donut's new job gives her the manager ability, thus turning Mordecai, formerly Master Splinter, now an Incubus, into their manager, much to his displeasure. We're introduced to the volcanic overcity and given lore and background into the circus that rules over this top layer on floor 3. While exploring, they run into Sonara Signet, which I'm still not sure I'm pronouncing correctly, but she's a level 60 elite who forces them into her servitude in an effort to bring down Grimaldi, her former lover and leader of the night circus. After an epic battle, we see Carl enter the big top tent where he will attempt to confront Grimaldi.
So, before we dig into this, bravo, Robert, on the chapter selection. I don't know if you did it on purpose or what, but I feel like every time that we have ended, it's been like the perfect spot to end, by the way. So
sometimes you get lucky, man. And I promise you, I just go and look at page count and I'm like, yeah, we can do this reasonably over 3 weeks. So yeah.
Perfect so far. Couldn't have asked for better spots to end on these cliffhangers.
Yeah, the Grimaldi one was big because I was hyped up during that large scale battle with the tattoo creatures, and then it just cuts off when he enters the tent.
Yeah. And
one of my favorite parts from this week in general, when he entered the tent, I like that flashback about his childhood and his mom taking him to the circus, and he had that scent memory. I thought that was I like learning more about who Carl was, what's going on there, and if, they're going to dive more into that. But even during that, Carl was you guys don't want to hear about this, though. And then he just kind of ends the flashback.
Yeah. And he says that, and you're like, yeah, I do.
I definitely do. I started having flashbacks about the circus, especially when he started talking about the scent. I was like, oh, man, I missed I was actually thinking about it the other day. I was like, man, I kind of want to go to the circus. I saw one of those little flyers. I was like, I might go this year. that definitely brought some flashbacks for me, too. I was like,
yeah. The thing I really like it, and what that flashback continues to sell to me in this book, is that there is a nice blend of this is your situation right now. And because sometimes it's hard because Carl now is starting to get a little bit of swagger to him. And so there's confidence there. He's doing some things that are a little more I don't know, what boss moves, if you will. So he's doing, he's kind of taking charge in some different things. And sometimes it's easy when you're listening to it or reading this to get caught up in the fact that here's Carl who's kind of running some things and doing some things and outsmarting some things and doing that, to remember that Carl is still a dude who can't remember how many were the first 2 floors. How many days were they each? I don't know. So let's just 20. So we're looking at roughly less than a month ago at this point in our story. Carl was sitting in his living room trying to get his cat to come back inside, normal dude, and his whole world's been flipped upside down. And then when you get the scent memory thing, it's it just kind of a reminder that that Carl is a dude who's going through a thing and has lost all of that, And so, I think that's it was a cool little, almost a little bit of a gut punch, because even he was kind of feeling that a little bit.
Yeah. And he briefly touched on his mom took him to run away and his dad brought him back. So I would like to know more about that backstory as well. I hope, the further we read into the series, that kind of reveals itself a little bit. And after Carl's like, you don't want to hear about this, we're off on the first city boss. Mm-hmm. And the system even lets Carl know you probably gonna die, dude. And then if Mordecai had a conversation with Carl about the vine monsters and being able to kill them with poison, I don't remember it, but Carl kind of touched on it here.
I think that was a flashback, honestly.
Okay.
I think that's what that was.
I think it was just like him remembering that conversation, but I don't think they went over it previously.
No, because I think that, because when he's talking about the conversation, it was very flashbacky. Like it was him remembering that conversation while you're in the moment. Yeah.
Gotcha. So Carl like poisons himself, and I thought that was a really unique way to deal with the boss. Because when I play video games, man, I like when bosses have like, you can kill them the old-fashioned way, but if you use X weapon, you can get it done faster. I like stuff like that, and this kind of the gaminess of this book with that going on was really cool. And then I like that Carl kind of flipped it to his advantage and like, this is still a TV show it's his life, but they turned it into spectacle, and he struck a deal with the producers, and he's like, hey man, I'm one of your most popular crawlers. I know this storyline's about Signet. I'll help her later on. Let me walk out of here. Because he knew they kind of sent him off to die. I thought that was really cool how that all played out.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. And again, that's more of that like Carl starting to get confident in with where he is, like because he kind of owned that too. He's like, take it or leave it. Like this is what's going to happen. So, yeah.
What about his own New Stuff Cafe with that ice cream he ate, bro? Dylan, are you eating the circus ice cream from Grimaldi, man?
If I was in Carl's situation, yeah. If I wasn't, and I was doing it for funsies, no.
It was like all the little tentacles and the worm. That like grosses me out, man. What a visual.
No, thank you.
Yeah, but thanks to that ice cream, he was able to walk out of the tent and kind of talk to Signet and get them to like patch their things up a little bit. And Signet's like, yo, you can go save Donut now, but her health's fading fast. And I think we all here know Donut's the main character, right? And there's no real danger to Donut this early in the game.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, they ain't gonna Game of Thrones Donut on me.
No, I thought it was interesting too, the way that kind of went down. He's even talking to Mordecai more because like she's under 20%, but she's still alive or whatever. And he gets there and she's like basically, getting attacked by these little like trash worm things. I don't even know. I don't even remember what they were called.
Street urchins.
That's what it was. And he found out that like Carl was the one who almost killed Donut, which is quite the
just because he's trying to protect her. It was a cool spin, dude. All that going down. I feared for Mongo a little bit because while I don't think they would do anything to Donut, I do fear for Mongo, but luckily everyone made it out alive. And Carl kind of had that moment you talked about where like, hey, this is his life now. And he reconciled that and he realized Donut and Mongo are pretty much all he has left.
Yeah.
And that warmed my black heart a little bit.
Yeah, because I think too, like we've even seen some contrast there. Because I don't even know if we hit on this, but you remember when and dude, here's the thing, guys. I apologize. I don't even remember if this was book 1 or not, but no, it was this book. It was when him and Donut were talking, and Donut went and basically risked her life for Mongo, and Carl was like, "Dude, we do not risk our life for pets." And it like caused this like wedge between them a little bit. And it was like a very, like they haven't reconciled that yet. At least from what I mean, they're living their life, they're doing the thing, but they haven't like discussed that since that happened. And so I think Carl is now like you said, I think he's starting to come to grips with like, this is it. This is my family. Like Donut is my homie, which I would love Donut too. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, Donut's amazing. Dylan, is Donut your favorite character, bro?
I think so. I mean, I think there's no question about it.
Easy choice, dude. I think so. I watch a anime called Shangri-La Frontier that Justin put me on, and like very much after Carl resolved the big bad. Like on that show, they fight big bads, and then they have like some slice of life, little like slow moments before the next threat. It kind of happened in this book, man. They dealt with the night circus, and then it was very much like they're leveling up, they're getting loot boxes, Mongo's getting teeth that has a chance to paralyze, and all that stuff's going down. Carl did get a casino chip worth 100,000 gold, but he has to play it on a game.
Yeah.
I think that happened somewhere in the middle of all the like leveling up and new ability stuff.
Well, we finally get to see the Desperado Club, you know? Like,
yeah, dude.
Because what was that? That was at book 1, right? When they got that tattoo.
Tattoo. Yeah, that was way back in book 1.
And so like we've been, you know, waiting to see, well, what is the Desperado Club? And so now we're actually here, and you know, it's not at all what I thought it was going to be. It's not even remotely close to what I thought it was going to be.
Nah, same. I do like that it's like the same instance for all crawlers, regardless of where you are on the floor. Because to me, that's a cool storytelling device. Like it gives us the opportunity where Carl may run into like the Metal Lark crew, or you know, like say that Lucy Amara, who coincidentally was in that club the night before Carl, and she's the reason Mongo had to be caged because her dogs, like, they wreck stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did like that little nightclub. I thought that was pretty cool, dude. And
well, isn't it like a thing where they, because they're part of the club, they get to go to different floors.
You can find us on YouTube
part of the club.
Wherever.
But there's also some very negative things to it too, from what I remember from book 1. So I'm guessing we'll figure out what some of that is at some point.
Yeah, because they really, I mean, you had your little moment there in the Desperado Club. Like they went off to that Silk Road. There was like its own shop where Carl met that hobgoblin and bought some new explosives. But ultimately, they really weren't there for too much of a chunk of what we read, because they got on that quest from Gum Gum.
Gum Gum. Yep. And then, you know, so what was it? Chapter 14 is that when Gum Gum comes to them for the very first time, and she's like, "Hey, I need your help with this thing," or whatever. And Mordecai's pretty much like,
"Yeah," he's like, "You good?"
He gives her the business, dude, and and he's not even friendly about it. Okay, Mordecai was not kind at all. And dude, I have a thought right now. And
go ahead, dude.
It could be wrong, but. So Gum Gum wants to get the quest, right? And from what my understanding is of this quest is basically there's like a bunch of dead prostitutes, right? And is it like saving this or figuring out some of that, right?
Right.
Our boy Mordecai is an incubus.
Oh, okay. I see.
I'm kind of wondering a little bit now, like if he was so resistant about her, because it wasn't like I mean, Carl and them didn't even get a chance to talk. He's like, "Nah, get out," you know, kind of thing. And so part of me is like wondering, like, is Mordecai out here slaying these women? Because that's what incubuses do, right?
So I love that theory. I didn't even think about that, dude. So shout out to you. My response would initially be what we learned last week about, like, if Mordecai makes it to the next floor, he's pretty much immortal. So maybe he's just doing everything in his power not to like get 86th on floor 3. But I didn't think about that incubus connection, and I like it. I know later on they kind of pegged that magistrate for it, but I've been confirmed, you know, from where we're at now. But dude, thanks for putting that, like, giving me that mental steak to chew on.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's true, dude. There could be a lot of things, but I remember right then when all that was going on, my connection was, hey, Mordecai was kind of a jerk about it. He's saying, no, you don't do that. And then all of a sudden there's all these dead women everywhere. I'm like, this just seems like this fits, but it could also not.
Carl tried to sneak out after night and help her anyway. And Mordecai's waiting on him like, she's gone, dude. I knew you were going to do this. And he goes back in the room, and Donut's like, we knew you were going to do this. Yeah.
Carl's a big softy, bro. I respect. He's the hero, bro. He's a hero.
He is the hero, man. I mean, like Donut said, sometimes even sidekicks have to shine a little bit.
That's right.
So, Carl's a good dude. I do like, as they're like becoming more of a team, the three of them, Carl, Donut, Mongo, they come up with their little playbook, and they're like basically running like football plays essentially for how they're all fighting together. I like that stuff, man. This book's so good.
It is. It is.
But we basically get back to them going on, kind of helping out Gum Gum anyway after they kind of do their visit to the Silk Road and the Desperado Club. Mongo kind of runs off in an alley, and there we see like Gum Gum's dead, dude. She's being ripped apart by some Krasu creature, just like a floating head with the organs everywhere. And just to the humor of this show, like an elf showed up and was talking trash, and before the elf could even finish, Carl and Donut then killed him. And it reminded me of Solo Leveling.
Well, bro, it's funny because it talks about Carl kicking the elf in the junk and basically shattering his balls essentially. And their little like not Mordecai manager, but the lady who helps get them on episodes is like, yeah, hey Carl, don't do that again. There's some talk about you because of this move or basically whatever. And he's like, I don't need this from the peanut gallery, but I thought that was pretty funny too.
So too, man. There's a lot to discuss in the last couple chapters, but I do briefly want to mention, I like when they were examining the elf's body and Donut noticed the badge on him and she's like, oh, that patch was made with this. Wait, why do I know that? And I remembered back from Googling the first 9 chapters we read, like her Earth loot box hobby was like whatever, being obsessed with patches. So it makes sense she'd have that knowledge. And Carl's was that high life sport, which he got his new weapon from his loot box from his fan box. And Donut's fan box that all the fans voted on was a picture of Carl's ex-girlfriend with her.
Brad the Chad. Which is our boy Depot up there today.
Yeah, dude.
That was hilarious.
Sorry, Carl.
You're the one with B, bro? That's you?
Yep, that's me. How you doing?
Essentially Carl and Donut, they're like, all right, once we get all the new stuff, all the loot boxes, they're like, man, we got to find out who's responsible for Gum Gum's death. And Mordecai just kind of gives them the heads up like, hey, that thing might be whoever's using those Krasus, probably a lich. And that never ends well in most stories where a lich is involved. But they head off. They decide the first place they're going to check is the Skyfowl Magistrate. And they had to use like Donut's puddle jump spell even to get up there because they're in the Skyfowl City, which is like a race of birds. And they make it up to that top level. And there's some Beanie Baby obsessed lady up there who's like, nah, you can't see him. He's out. And Carl just pulls the dead prostitute and throws her on the table. And I'm like, what is happening?
And the fact that they said all of the blood was gone, but she was still oozing stuff. I was like, oh, bro.
Yeah,
bro. Like, it was such a nasty description.
And I thought it was cool. She tried to summon the guards. Yeah. But the guards were like, they saw it was Carl and they left because he had his like little get out of jail free card that made him immune. I thought that was a nice touch, dude. I like how they keep bringing back like.
Well, that was from Gum Gum, right? That he got that from. Yeah. That was
when
good.
He looted her body, I think is when.
That's right. He's like, this is an interesting item. And so, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and then we had probably one of the cooler fights in this one when they went to that old abandoned YMCA and everything got dark and they were being attacked by like the zombies and the elves, and that there was a dead neighborhood boss in there, and Carl accidentally blew it up and sent himself skyrocketing into a roof, and that was a really cool fight, dude. I mean, I think all it really led to them was Donut being covered in gore, looking like fried chicken. But I don't know if it really, sent their mission they were on forward in any meaningful way.
Yeah, dude. Pretty wild, man. That was a great fight scene. Actually, dude, I'll be honest. Like, this is one of those books where we are right now, it just keeps, I don't know. Sometimes when you get into a series of stuff, like, there's some trail off at times.
Yeah.
And that's not always bad. Like it's just like it slows down a little. But even the slowdowns in Dungeon Crawler Carl are like they're funny. Like it's them in a safe house opening their loot boxes and then Carl finding out that he's still going to be in his boxers forever because now he has them boosted with
that was great, man. He like even looked up at the sky and he's like, seriously.
Yeah. It's so like it's just entertaining stuff, right? Like even the times when they're like chilling in the safe house, it's just funny. And I feel like we keep seeing even Donut, the progression of Donut's character, like from where she started to where she is now. And I love the relationship that her and Carl have. And then you add Mongo to that mix. Like, this book just keeps on. It's aging like some fine wine. You know what I mean?
I did feel like it was kind of interesting. You were talking about Donut and like kind of where she started. I think they were kind of talking a little bit, or like I guess Carl was thinking about how Donut is basically literally like a child right now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how old Donut, like as a cat, was previously before, everything happened. So I don't know if he was just saying like she was young before that, or if it's just because she's now like her own like sentient being essentially and can actually, knows how to talk and process things. So I don't really know exactly in the way he meant it, but she's basically like, maturing like, a kid would essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good shout, dude. Yeah, I like that they brought that up too. One of my favorite parts of the books is when they do those TV like show interviews.
Yeah.
And we had like a pretty good one here, and I'm definitely not going to dive into all of it, but man, did we learn a lot about like the political ramifications of what's going on outside of the dungeon.
Yeah, it's a little more dictatorship like, which I guess makes sense with all the things going on, like that you would have some ruling beings, some overlords that were, not very kind. And so like even when Carl was like taunting, and he's trying to rally people, like he's like, look at where you're at. Look how they run this. Like, is that what you want? And so and then there were some repercussions to doing it that way for him to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. They, so there was a girl named Menanza. I'm sure I butchered that name, but her and Carl switched trailers. She was like some famous singer. I guess I'm going to call her the Taylor Swift of the universe. And she switched so Carl and Donut could get cleaned up, and Carl's original trailer ends up getting blown up, meant to kill Carl, but killed her instead. But then there was political backlash where this Princess Donata was like, oh, yeah. So she had her people blow up the Skull Empire's yacht for trying to kill old Carl. And, really because Menanza was her, like, one of her best friends. So she was retaliating for that. Ended up killing old former Prince Maestro, who was in that hilarious video with Carl in the first book.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, and then I didn't even bring up like Hecla, one of the Amazonian shield maiden who was there, is a leader of a guild in that crawler dungeon, and she like enlisted Carl's help before any of this even happened. Like there is a lot of moving plot lines going on.
There are
as we head into the end of this book.
They still are so nicely woven together. I thought that it was interesting in that when the girl died in the trailer or whatever, even Carl was like, you douches, like basically because they're mourning the death of this girl. They're like, it's just, she was innocent, yada, yada. And he's like sitting there thinking like, bro, like my whole planet has been, look, millions of people are ticking away here, like,
yeah. He's like, it's only a tragedy when it affects you.
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah. That was tough. Yeah. That was interesting because it was so daggone true. So
absolutely, dude. Couple notes as we're leaving out here. I wanted to get your input from you and Dylan. Like towards the end of the coverage of this week's chapter, Carl briefly mentioned Maggie Ma and Frank Q. Do you guys think we're going to run into those two crawlers in this book?
I actually don't think we're going to run into them in this book, personally. I mean, maybe, but I think that there are so many other things moving right now. And if anything I learned from the first book is that, Matt's not really in a big hurry to get us through each one of these floors. Like there are plenty of Dungeon Crawler Carl books to go. And so,
I think it's like a little breadcrumb just to remind us, like, hey, they're still out there, dude. Don't forget about them.
That's what I kind of think in a way, because there's so much other stuff going on in floor 3 right now. And I mean, what, 6 days? They got 6 days. It's 6 or 8. I don't remember.
I think 6. And Agatha's still out there somewhere.
So they got 6 days, and I don't know what day we're even on right now, but I feel like maybe, and maybe they will, and I could be totally off. It just feels like there's not enough time to bring in another big thing.
Story. Yeah, that's a good point, dude. Dylan, do you have any predictions for how this book's going to end?
How it's going to end? Oh boy, I don't know. I was actually kind of just thinking as you all were talking, like, are we even going to get to the next floor?
That's
because it was how many days? 6 days total, right? And
we have 6 chapters.
We're only on like day 3.
Yeah, we ain't going
or something like that. I feel like I don't even know if we're going to make it to the end of this one. I feel like it's going to be on like a big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Probably before the actual, like, I'm not sure how, obviously I wasn't there in the first book, so I don't know how the level kind of progresses. I don't know if they have to stay on, for 6 days, or, if they can complete it by day 5 or not. But I definitely feel like there's not enough time, especially with everything that's going on that has to be resolved by the end of the book. I don't think there's even enough time to go to the next level. So, I don't know. I don't really feel like there has to, again, this is coming from, like, I just don't know. I feel like I'm assuming there's going to be one big thing at the very end of the level. That's like the big boss battle, I would assume.
Well, he kind of did that with the circus. He's already got the stairs to the 4th floor, so he could have gone down. Yeah. But in the first book, they're kind of like, yeah, you could go down early, but you're kind of trapped in stasis. It's better for you in the long run to stay up here and grind levels.
Yeah, and grind. Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially because you lose viewers too, and I think viewership is such a big deal in this. Because if you have more viewers, you have better opportunities at better items down the line, and so they're always trying to encourage them, like, hey, keep your viewership up, and it's crazy. I like when they start chapters off with like the viewers 83 trillion, favorites, 17 trillion, like that kind of stuff's kind of, and it just shows like, that our team here is getting more and more popular. I agree with Dylan though. I don't think we're getting off the 3rd floor. And the first book, I didn't think ended on like some crazy cliffhanger necessarily. I mean, it ended on a cliffhanger. They were going down to floor 3, but there wasn't like this, is Carl about to die kind of moment. But I'm wondering if we're going to, there's been some hints, at least if I remember, there have been some hints that the city bosses guard some of these gates on floor 3. So I'm kind of wondering if we're going to end on they're running into another city boss of some sort.
I do think the first book with Agatha was a nice little, like, I kind of want to know more about her, and I'm still curious about Agatha. But I do agree with you guys. I think there'll be a cliffhanger. For some reason, I feel like we're going to hit the 4th floor. I think the rest of this one is going to be centered around Hecla's friend with Carl and Donut, and they're all going to finish that magistrate quest, because Carl even told her, like, hey, we'll help her, but we're doing our own thing, and we're not going to detract from that, but she's welcome to come along. So I think we're going to get some resolution to that and potentially see them descend into the 4th floor would be my bold prediction anyway. But if they don't, they did say every 3 levels is like big, like 3, 6, 9, 12.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of thinking, I feel like the way that Matt's probably going to, I'm assuming, for the future books, is he's going to do the levels in between the big levels. He's going to kind of guide through in one book, and then the big levels is going to be one whole book. I feel like that would make sense for like the pacing, I guess, of it all. I also feel like there's something up with Mordecai, because like Justin was saying, with him being an incubus and all that. But I also feel like, so I don't know if you guys remember, there's one part, I don't even remember what in the world they were talking about, but he was talking about Skyfowl. And whenever he was talking about them in 3rd person, but then he slipped up and said we. So I don't know, like, if that
was his
like
original race.
Okay. I didn't know if I just didn't have information from like the beginning of the first.
Yeah, book. It was book 1. He mentioned he was was originally of that Skyfowl race.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I was like, oh, maybe there's something bigger going on, but okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But he did bring up Odette in this one. which was like a nice throw in. Like he's never, and Carl kind of brain checked that. He's like, yeah, we're not going to bring this up right now. But Mordecai kind of slipped up and like let it be known, like there was something going on with him and Odette, whether they were partied up as crawlers or something happened. He made like a slip up and Carl mental noted it for later.
Yep.
So yeah, there's definitely something going on with Mordecai, man.
Yeah, he's got his own little plot line going on.
Yeah,
so before we get into our last 3 words, I wanted to ask, does anybody have any quotes of the week? That something that stood out and jumped out to you as something that, you know, your favorite quote from this week's readings? I'll start. Okay. So I really like this quote, and for no other reason other than the fact that I felt this when I was watching Stranger Things, but it says it's too dangerous for a show to have guest stars that are more interesting than the main character. That's why they killed Barb on Stranger Things.
Man,
I remember when I saw that, I was like, bro, you guys remember the Barb phenomenon? When Stranger Things was like a big deal and like the Barb thing happened. Once they killed Barb, like people were like hashtagging Team Barb, and people were going out in Halloween costumes as Barb. And you're like, bro, she was on like 3 episodes. She was a solid character. Don't get me wrong. But I just thought when I heard that, I just chuckled to myself. I'm sure there's other funny quotes in this set of readings, but that one stood out to me. What about you guys?
Mine was when they were at the Desperado Club and they were going to have their drink, or maybe it was the One-Eyed Narwhal. Great name for an M, by the way. Oh, yeah. But it was Donut was ready to get sloshed, and Carl was like, "Cats don't drink cocktails," and she said, "Cats don't shoot lasers from their eyes either." But here we are, Carl. Mama needs her drink or needs her night off. Or
that was good. That was good too. All right, Dylan, you got one for us?
I was going to use this as my last 3 words, but listen, I'm not a good singer, but here we go. Listen. I'm free balling.
there it is.
We just need to end. We don't even need our last 3 words.
No,
right?
You know what? I'm with you, brother. Good night, everybody. We'll see you guys soon for part 3 of Carl's Doomsday scenario. Thanks for checking out the Nerdy Reads podcast. Like and subscribe. We'll see you guys later.
Anytime we can end on Dylan singing.